Hey, with our graduate composers, we've been taking a deep dive into synthesis lately, and one of the things that I love making is a BRAAMMM sound. So here's a quick tutorial on how to go about doing that. So the basic building blocks of a BRAAMMM sound is basically using all four sound sources in Vital. The first element that I usually build up for a BRAAMMM sound is the kind of like the sub bass hit that comes with it. And so just as I'm thinking in terms of like hierarchy of timbres, I generally think brighter sounds with oscillator 1, darker sounds as we go down, just because that's the way my brain works, not because there's any specific reason to do it that way. So I'll go ahead and load up into oscillator 3 here a sine wave. And then I'm going to be using LFO number 1 as the main driver of time for this. So I'm going to go ahead and map out LFO 1 to control the volume of oscillator 3. And then I'm going to set LFO number 1 to have the general length of time that I want this event to be, which let's set this to be maybe like 4 seconds long, and turn off smoothing. And so this is just going to represent the beginning of time, end of time, and then I'm going to use Vital's feature of modulation remaps to shape that into what I want it to be. So we're going to start with saying the volume should be all the way up. By the end, the volume should be all the way down. It should have a pretty quick first hit, and then I want a little bit of like a woo, kind of like a post-impact sub-rumble that comes in after the fact. So let's see what that sounded like. Cool, oops, something like that, but I want this to be an envelope, not a looping LFO, so it just does it once. Cool, then let's tune this down an octave. Perfect, something like that. Then the next thing I want is kind of like when designing a kick drum, I want a snap to that sub bass hit, which means I want the pitch to jump up and then come back down. So again, I'm going to take LFO 1, drop it onto the pitch of it, and let's right click and enter the value to be plus 48 semitones. So we're going up 4 octaves from whatever note that we're playing. Jump back to the matrix tab, make sure we're looking at LFO 1 going to the oscillator 3 transposition, and again shape our mod remap to be as time progresses, as we go across those 4 seconds of LFO number 1, how do we want the pitch to behave? And very similar to volume, I want it to be just basically an instantaneous hit. And then I want it to come back up just a little bit and then slowly bend back down. So we kind of get this like woo kind of sound. Maybe actually it goes down instead. Yeah, that sounded really nice. Cool. Then let's bring in the sample to do some white noise to give us a little bit more bite to this impact. Same thing, we'll use LFO number 1 to control the volume of it. Go back to the matrix tab. This is going to be just right at the very beginning. Cha. Cool. Then I'm going to send oscillator 3 directly out to the DAW, so I don't ever do any future processing to that. I just keep that clean sound, and then I'm going to send the white noise through filter number 1, so I can kind of roll off the harshness of that. And let's shorten up that attack time even more. Let's bring down the overall level. Cool. So there's like our impact and our sub bass hit. Next is we need the thing that's actually the BRAAMMM sound. So we're going to start with making the big wash of it, which we're going to use oscillator number 1 to do this. So close. Let's turn up the volume of that. So we're going to use this to be our like the big wash of the sound. So it's going to start with a saw wave, then we'll turn it into a super saw wave by getting a whole bunch of unison. And we'll probably start with them perfectly in tune and let them grow out of tune. So maybe not perfectly in tune, but really close to in tune. So let's start like 4-ish, 5-ish%, and then take LFO number 1, drop it onto that same thing, and then jump over to the matrix tab, and let's have it just be really slow, something like this. So we get. And then let's dial in that amount so that it doesn't get too crazy. Something like that. And now you can decide on how punchy you want the attack to be based upon if we have phase randomization or not. So here's without phase randomization. Gives you a lot more kind of like at the beginning of the sound, and then a little bit more of a tearing sound. If we have 100% phase randomization, it starts off a little bit more washy. Kind of like it's already in the stereo field. If we kind of split the difference, so something right around there sounds pretty good to me. And then we're going to bring in oscillator number 3, or sorry, oscillator 2, and just kind of fill in, keep the center focused. Awesome. And now let's just get the volume shape happening a little bit more, that it's never going to have any sustain. Eventually it's a die out no matter how long the note is held. We want instantaneous attack, and then adjusting the decay time to whatever we want it to be. Maybe that's a little too fast. Maybe do something a little bit more like this. Maybe add in a little bit of hold time so we have an opportunity to hear the woof from our sub impact from oscillator 3. Cool, that feels about right. Let's just mirror. Let's see, our decay is currently about 7 seconds, so let's just get our release to be about 7 seconds. So they're always about the same. No matter how long I hold the note, it's going to be about the same volume shape. Now we start doing post-processing. So we've got the sound working the way we want to. Now we do a little bit of post-processing. I like to turn the filter number 1, which has everything, but our sub impact is going through filter number 1. So I like to switch it over to a dirty so we can drive it and get some more distortion. Let's roll through filter number 2, do the same thing, switch it over to dirty, smooth out the filter, open it up quite a bit. Then we could drop filter number 1, or sorry, LFO number 1 onto the filter and play around with how do we want this filter to move over time as this note evolves. Same thing with distortion. just keeps going. All right, so next is adding a little bit of like pitch modulation to it. I like to use the random sources down here. Drop this onto the fine tuning, right click and make those bipolar so it both goes up and down in pitch. And then do the same thing but with a different random to the second oscillator. It's same thing, make it bipolar so it goes up and down in pitch. Change both of these to seconds, make them pretty slow so these pitch changes are not rhythmic, they're just kind of undulations. Then if we go over to the matrix tab, we can use macro number 1 to say, like call this drift for pitch drift. And then we're looking for the random going to oscillator 1 and the random going to oscillator 2. Have that modulate both of those so that when it's all the way to the left, there's no pitch drifting happening. When it's all the way to the right, there's maximum pitch drifting. So to hear that and it's maximum. If you make both of these stereo, you'll get some really wild things happening left, right. So you can hear that sounds really wide at this point. We can use the stereo spread or your favorite stereo width control plugin to do that. Now let's do some effects using the compressor, which out of the box comes in like the OTT mode, over the top mode. And let's just hear what that does to the sound. So I think too much top end, but let's go more mid or more lows and cut the mids a little bit. Add in some distortion. Add another filter to tame the high ends just a little bit. Little bit of EQing. Then last but not least, add in some reverb. Again, probably better to do this outside of Vital in your own favorite reverb plugin. But just to do it all in the box, make it one preset that you can grab. Let's bring up the time to be pretty significant. Keep the mix just below 50% and reduce the highs coming out of this reverb. And here's our BRAAMMM sound.